Welcome to the Vintage Vehicle Show. I'm Hot Rod Heidi. I'm here at Viva Las Vegas, my favorite car show of the year. Let's take a look around. I'm here with Steve Edwards and his 27 Ford Roadster. And can you tell us a little bit about your car?
Sure. It's a 1927 Ford Roadster body on Model A rails. Has a 1961 364 Buick in it with a 32 grill shell. It's on all traditional frameworks underneath with a Turbo 400 transmission, a 55 Chevy rear end.
And you told me earlier that you did something under $4,400.
I built the whole car for $4,400, just the way you see it.
And how did you do that exactly?
Everything in this car is used parts except for 4 new tires, a new radiator, and 2 front wheels. All the rest of this was scrounged parts or built out of leftovers that I found within the town I live in.
What's your favorite part about your car?
My favorite part of my car is the engine because it's different from everybody else's. My intake manifold is all home built, running Volkswagen carburetors, so everything is scratch built. And I like the fact that it's different. It's not a Chevrolet.
Where did you find this car? Where did you get it?
I found this body sitting in a friend of a friend's backyard. And I had painted the fenders for his brother, and he'd had the car sitting there for almost 20 years, and I kind of beat around the bush out of it, and he finally got mad at me one afternoon because I was bugging him about it. He says, if you want that car so bad, he says, back your pickup truck in here and load the body in your pickup truck. So I did that. So I brought it home for a week, and I put the word out I needed a set of frame rails to the guys that I know locally. 3 days later, I got a set of rusty frame rails laying in my front yard that I had no idea where they came from. So from that point on, I just started collecting pieces and cleaning them up one at a time. Here and there, I'd find this or front end pieces. The grill shell came off another one of my friend's 32 Ford Roadster. The grill was a $10 find at a swap meet. The headlights were under my dad's house. I mean, just pieces you just acquire everywhere you go. You say, oh, there's something I can use.
Right.
There's pieces in the front that were cut off the back down here that make the spreader bar up front. They were cut off the rear suspension pieces. I mean, nothing goes to waste.
Yeah.
I mean, the steering column's out of my buddy's 56 Ford pickup. The shifter's out of his pickup truck. It can, whatever we find, we can get our hands on and make it work.
$4,400, and it looks amazing. I'm here with Alan Mays, and he's with Car Culture Deluxe and Old School Rods. And I asked him to pick out his favorite car and builder here at the show at Viva Las Vegas. And go ahead, Alan, and tell us a little bit about what you know about the car and the builder here.
Okay. This is a 54 Chevy that Alex Gambino from Gambino Customs built. I like all of Alex's work because he builds such a broad range of cars, everything from daily drivers to show winners. And like this car last time I saw it was gold and black, and now it's orange with a fade. He's one of those guys who can do something while everybody else is trying to figure out how to do it.
Right.
So I like all of Alex's work. So this is the car he has here. So
and what's your favorite feature or thing about this car that?
Well, I like the interior on this thing, and I like
cool.
I like the tonneau cover on the back seat, which is an old 50s and 60s trick. And you know, Alex is
see it nowadays.
and Alex does all that. He does that stuff because that's what he lives.
Yeah. So let's hear it from you. Like, what was the history behind this car?
I've had this car about, I'd say, 8 years. It's an old 70s lowrider from San Jose, California. It sat out in front of a car wash for like years. People started taking parts off of it. Like they took the grill, the headlight rings, they caved the roof in. It was all scratched. But anyway, the gentleman wanted $400 for it. At the time, I didn't have the $400 and I already had too many cars. Well, about a year went by and he actually had to get rid of the car or it was going to get junked. I told him, well, I have a place we can put it. I can give you a $20 down payment and we can take it over to the shop that I work at. So we did that and the gentleman just disappeared. So I've never actually paid for the car. And I mean, I'd really like to pay for it. I don't know where he is. I don't even know who he is. So I basically got it for the $20.
Did you have any challenges or any fun stories when you were putting it back together, so to speak?
Well, the first version of this car is I put it together and to get into the first car club that I was in years ago, which I'm no longer with. And so if I got this car together and brought it to the San Francisco Rod and Custom Car Show, I was able to get my jacket and plaque. Well, I was able to achieve that in 30 days with a lot of help of friends, and it was probably 80% of me, but you know, at the end, everybody came in and made it get done. But I trailered it to the show, but drove it in. It didn't have any seats, no headlights, no taillights.
I love this.
But you know, it was all painted, and so it didn't have a hood, and I drove it around like that for a long time. Ironically, though, was that I kind of sent the wrong message to a lot of young kids because they started copying this car with no hood, no grill, no headlight rings, no front bumper, and that's not really what I meant to do.
Yeah.
All I meant is, you know, you could drive your car and build them. But this is how I actually intended the car, you know, to be back then, but it just never happened.
I'm here with Tony FARNETTI, and he has his 35 Ford pickup truck with us. And tell us a little bit about your truck. Where did you find this truck?
I found it 46 miles off a main highway in Idaho, up in the mountains, up in the Oahe Mountains. And I bought it from a guy that was 75 years old. He wanted $2,500 for it, but I offered him $1,500 and he told me no. It was 2 months later he called me and said he would take the $1,500, so I went back and got it. Well, I brought it home. pulled the frame out from under it, and I had built this frame for a 36 Ford slantback I had, and I set this body on it, and we got it home on Thursday, and I drove it to Boise Saturday morning. Me and a friend of mine helped me, and we put it together, and I drove it. Like I said, it didn't have no windows in it or anything then, but I want to drive it back up there and let this guy go for a ride in it, because like I say, he's a pretty old guy.
Yeah.
I'm pretty old too.
I think he'd be pretty shocked to see it now. But you haven't really done much to the body, just
to the outside, no.
Right. And tell me what you have done to the car.
Bo Huff's son, Junior, striped it for me. This hood ornament I got from my sister-in-law years ago, and it's off of a 30s Pontiac.
Nice.
And the shift knob inside it is a like a 50s microphone.
But I like your hubcaps. Pretty nice hubcaps you got there.
I've owned these bars since 1967.
Yeah.
I bought them when I was 17 years old.
Oh, good Lord. So you've been a car builder for
years. I started with my brother-in-law. I was 14 years old, and he used to make me do the grunt work, sand the cars.
Right.
But that's how I learned to do this. I've chopped a lot of them. I've got a 1935 Ford tow truck back here.
Okay.
I chopped 7 inches, channeled it over the frame 8, shortened it 7, and it's just had all kinds of work done to it. And
so how many classics, how many hot rods do you think you've had?
I can't even remember. I've had so many of them, it ain't funny.
It's like all the women in your life, Tony, just come and go.
When I got married, my wife said she counted them, and I had over 100 cars the first year we were married.
Good Lord. I'm here with Joe Hudson. Joe, how did you get that name?
I've been building Hudsons for about close to 8 years with a guy named Bill Albright in Fontana, California. God rest his soul. He just passed away. A lot of my friends, I've always had a Hudson since I was 16, high school, 49 Hudson Commodore Club Coupe. Great car, and everybody knows me as Hudson Joe because not everybody has Hudsons.
But now you have a 29 Model 8 Roadster. And tell us a little bit about the car, where you found it, and the history of it.
A friend of mine didn't want to sell this car. He gave me a lot of grief on this, and he finally sold it to me. His name is Johnny from the Emperor's Car Club, California. And it was sitting in his yard, just sitting against the wall, just twisted and just bad, terrible, real bad disrepair. And he goes, "Yeah, I'll sell it to you." $1,500 later, I pulled the heap to my house and started working on it. And
what all have you done to it since you got it then?
Well, most of the metal work that needed to be done to get the body back into what it needed to be in. I bought this track nose when I was about 16 for $100. It was on a modified Roadster from the 40s. Wow. I made the grill. I made the crash bar. I got the headlights from a DC-3 landing gear. Nice. I made the headers. I made the hood. This is a aftermarket Duke Halleck reproduction that I kind of cut down and made my own. And tonneau cover, believed to be a Harvey Holler Roadster from the SCTA Roadrunners.
Nice. What's your favorite thing about your car?
The most favorite thing about my car would have to be the aircraft gauges.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, aircraft's a big influence in my life. Yeah. My grandfather was a naval aviator.
Nice.
In 1941, and he flew a lot of planes. And it's kind of like a tribute to my grandfather. He passed away, so I built this car in memory of him.
Okay, so I'm here with Priscilla and Marky, and you guys actually met because of your cars. Tell us a little bit about that, because he did a lot of work on these cars. They look amazing.
Actually, we met through mutual friends, and I had always seen his car around, and I had bought this car about 7 years ago, and it just sat in the backyard. And then I realized, oh my gosh, that's the same car as mine. And then we ended up seeing each other, but I didn't know it was his car. And then one day he came to pick me up, and it was, oh wow, that's the guy with the car that I had always seen around.
So he saw the car in your backyard, and
yeah, she pretty much told me that she has one too, but it's like, yeah, whatever. Thinking it's a Ranchero or something, you know.
Yeah.
Until she finally showed me to me, and I was just like speechless, like, dang, she really does have one. I was just like, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And they're both 60s.
Yeah.
And what all have you done to both the cars?
Pretty much both of them. For one thing that I like a lot about them is I extended the fins on them and molded it and customized that. Pretty much wrapped it around all the way around to make it more of a peak.
Yep.
And get rid of a lot of the stainless and make it more of a custom. Yeah. And
pretty rusty when you got them. They were pretty rusty, I heard.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty much like a hidden surprise when sanding and taking all the paint off of it. You know, and just like years of just like patch panel repairs and stuff. You know, so actually taking it all down and doing it, and her learning a lot about it and sanding it and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you spend several days sanding this car here.
Yeah. I sanded the whole thing by myself. Lots of work. It was
so your car wasn't finished when you met her. It was you were still kind of working on it.
Yeah, it was pretty much primered, but daily driver and stuff like that. And then after just getting hers into shape and getting it painted, it's like, I'm going to paint mine too,
Yeah.
So.
And so I have a 59 Catalina, and I have a lace top too, the metal flake, and I love these. Those are my favorite things. You guys had a hard time finding fabric, or because that was my biggest challenge, was finding fabric that I liked, a lace print.
Yeah, I always I make clothes myself, so I'm always at shopping. This and that and shopping. So I was looking and looking and looking, and then I just actually found it at a local fabric store. Just randomly found it. So
yeah, it's a great print. I love it. What's your favorite thing about your car?
About mine?
Yeah.
Well, pretty much being able to drive it daily and be able to still tow, my custom trailer with the rest of my custom cars and stuff with it too, and something different and unique,
That's it for Viva Las Vegas. See you next trip. Woo!